love Chichester Harbour is because it's incredibly beautiful and it's a fantastic place to do any kind of water sports. So I love dinghy sailing and the harbour itself.
Impact on the harbour in the next 10 years. For me, I could already see the environmental impact happening at the moment. Some of our favourite walks around Bosham Harbour and other places in Chichester Harbour in itself have actually been impacted with the weather recently, with tidal defences being broken down. If we don't keep, really working on the environment, then that's going to obviously have an impact on some villages in Chichester Harbour. Actually depend on the tides behaving themselves, i.e. Bosham Harbour. There's a pub and a cafe which really depend on the tide actually staying as it is, and if the environmental side of things carry on the way they're going, there are many different businesses and people that depend on environment status who actually really start to feel the drain.
And I like mountain biking around the local area, and sometimes some of the areas are kind of hilly, so if you ride up the hills you can see the beautiful environment of Chichester Harbour. So that's just one of the really nice things about it.
But actually, more than anything, the harbour itself, it's always different. Wherever you go there, it's different. I think if you go in when the tide's low, you get the mud flats and the birds fishing for fish, and it's beautiful in its own way. Then, when the tide comes in, sometimes it's flat and glassy and mirror-like, which has got its own beauty, and then other times it's actually the water's churned up in small waves and the wind, and it's exciting and invigorating in that way. I've run around it, I've walked around it. I think I probably enjoy most is just stopping and point to the harbour where there's benches and take a seat and enjoy the view and take it all in.
I love everything about Chichester Harbour. I've grown up around here. I go out on boats, I go kayaking and things like that.
So I think that the harbour is obviously an incredibly beautiful place and a special place for many of us. The future of the harbour and how we can serve it, the nature and the environment itself is a much more complicated question. I think whether you try and retain and preserve East Head, which ultimately they're trying to do at the moment, but is an expensive and whether long-term achievable objective, I don't know. Certainly the storms have got worse, the weather seems to be getting worse. We've got a coastal property and you can see that from our front wall and garden getting destroyed. In 10, 20, 30 years time that's only going to continue to get worse, so we do have to make decisions. Sometimes it has to be financial, sometimes it has to be, always it's going to be environmental, but they do have to, it's different again in the summer I suppose. It comes to life in a big way and there's lots of people racing boats and it's very active and lively. But sometimes in the winter there's no one there and it's very, very peaceful. So it's a very, very, very special place. If you've not been there, you've got to go there.
Nice and sandy. If you like it sandy, go to West Wirrin. If you like it rocks, go to Emsworth. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, there's some really nice pebbles. If you're into pebbles, then it's the place to check out at Pebbles, Emsworth. Yeah, and crabbing. Oh, genius for crabbing.
Well, the thing that attracts me to Chichester Harbour is you just, everywhere you look it's different, and every time you see it it's different, because the tide and the light and the clouds and whatever, they're constantly changing. But when you walk around the harbour, although it's a lovely scene, it's nothing like being on the harbour as a harbour user. It's just like, I can only say it's like, for instance, picking up a lovely book with a very nice attractive cover on it, and that's the equivalent of walking around the outside of the harbour. But once you open the pages up and look inside and read the story, that's what it's like when you get onto the harbour, into the harbour, especially at low tide. All the wonderful little creeks and things and wildlife, it's just a magical place. It's just heaving, more so in the winter than in the summer. And well, it can be obsessive after a while, but every time you go to the same place it's different, and that's what's so lovely about it. Unspoiled mostly.
do water sports in the most beautiful surroundings possible.
And it's a beautiful place to be, really. There's somewhere where when the sun's shining, it's the place you want to be in life.